Hello everybody. So yeah, this is me, Nick Eastham. I'm going to have a look at 3 tools that probably don't have as high a profile as, say, your big hitters, your storylines and Captivates, but I think each of them still have very kind of noteworthy features that makes them interesting. Those 3 are Domino Flow, CourseBuilder 9, and Evolve. So yeah, this is me, Nick Eastham. I'm a Learning Technologies Consultant at Brightwave. Worked in e-learning for over 20 years. And at Brightwave, I think we're quite unusual in that we do use a lot of different authoring tools. We don't concentrate on 1 or 2. We kind of use pretty much everything that's out there, and even tools that we haven't used for e-learning. I make it my business to research them and kind of trial them and see what they're all about. And Domino Flow is something that I really like from the offset, actually. It's a cloud-based tool. You use it in your browser. It's fully responsive. It does use the sort of technique that other responsive tools use to lay out your content on the screen, in that you do it with rows and columns. But it gives you control over how you kind of structure those elements, those containers. So you can choose where you want your rows and where you want your columns, and how many columns you have, and how wide each of those columns are. What percentage of the screen they use. You can control how they collapse down into fewer columns as you go down through smaller devices and smaller screen resolutions. And it even allows you to control the margins that sit around any kind of elements you add into those container cells, even to the extent it can actually give them negative margins. So you can really kind of fine tune this positioning of each of the elements that you put on your screen, which is a really nice feature. But actually, I think the strength of Domino Flow is its actions and variables. So, excuse me, it has a really sort of long list of actions that you can apply to screen elements. I've also put on this list timeline, just stuck that on the bottom there because that's something that's in beta currently with this tool. And I'm not really aware of any other responsive tool that has a timeline in the same way that Storyline and Captivate does. So that's an interesting feature and something I think worth looking at. But I want to look at the actions and variables with you today. So this is the authoring environment that you have in Flow. This is your screen kind of layout, and you can see, here are your different elements, your text elements, images, buttons, and you choose how to structure those things. And if you select one of these elements on screen and click the Interactions tab and the Actions button, you get a big long list of actions you can add to elements on your screen. If I zoom in there a little bit, you can see you can show elements, hide elements, swap elements, you can toggle things, you can play and pause elements, play and pause video and show and hide captions. And then you've also got a list of navigational link actions. So you can add actions to elements that take you to the next screen or the previous. To any other page in your course, you can jump to different elements that are on the same screen. So if you had a long scrolling screen of content, you could jump to the bottom to fast forward through stuff, or jump back up to the top. And you can also disable and enable buttons too. Now all of these actions, I've applied it to a button there on that screen example, but you can add that to a text item or an image. You can essentially kind of make pretty much any element on your screen into a button, because it allows you to interact with it. Once you've selected what it is, the action that you want, you then get to select what the event is that kind of triggers that action. So again, we've got a nice long list here. So it could be that when you've clicked that element, when you've double-clicked it, right-clicked it, when you've moved your mouse over it or off it, or simply when that element appeared on the screen or when it disappeared. So if you think about that, and the fact that actually you can add actions to simply the page loading itself, the page could load and dynamically kind of build itself dependent on, and the other thing we've got here is conditions. So any action you put on your screen can have a condition on it so that it only occurs if you wish it to. So you can create custom variables, and you could use those to keep track of the learner's previous responses in the course or previous choices they've made, so that screen really kind of can dynamically present to them just screen elements and content that you want them to see, dependent on what they've already done in the course. So that gives real control to the learning design. And for me, as a like coming from a technical kind of perspective, that's the kind of thing I like to see in a tool, where that gives me real control over what I can create. And likewise, it's what the learning design is like, and then it's what the clients want as well, so that we can give them the bespoke features and interactions that they really want. We can build those for them in Domino Flow. So I think that's that's the real strength of this tool. In summary, I'd say two things really. It's the control over the content layout that I liked, and it's that flexibility of being able to create your own learning designs and bespoke features. The next tool, tool 2, CourseBuilder 9. Similar actually in some ways to Domino Flow. It's cloud-based, it's responsive. I should say it's completely different to CourseBuilder 6. You may be familiar with that. That tool was around for a while. This is a completely different tool. It's been rebuilt from scratch. It's HTML5. The old CourseBuilder 6 was Flash. It does mean, though, that you can't, if you've got old CourseBuilder 6 courses, you can't sort of just upgrade them and convert them into CourseBuilder 9 HTML5 courses. You would need to build your new CourseBuilder 9 course from scratch. The thing that's similar to Domino Flow is that it has actions. They refer to them as triggers, and it allows you to create custom variables. Doesn't quite have the list of different triggers and actions that Domino Flow has, but it's pretty good. But the thing that's kind of stands it apart is the way that you control the layout of your elements on the screen, your content. So this is the edited environment for CourseBuilder 9, and where other tools kind of define for you the breakpoints for the different screen dimensions and sizes that your content will respond to, so that it presents itself differently across different devices and different orientations of devices. In CourseBuilder 9, it allows you to define those sizes yourself. You can define the width and height for each of your devices and each of your orientations of those devices. Now, that kind of means, again, you have control over how much space you have on screen for each of your devices. So you can control, it's kind of your content can determine what size screen you have, rather than the screen being the thing that determines how much content you have. So yeah, you're in control rather than the device kind of forcing on you what you can put on screen. There's no danger in actually defining too large a size for your screen. For instance, if for a phone you wanted to define a large definition, a large screen size, large screen resolution, I should say for an iPhone 10, there's no danger that then on an iPhone 5 that content wouldn't fit. CourseBuilder will scale that down for you so that it'll fit anyway. If we look at a page of content in CourseBuilder, so a simple thing here, a bit of text and an image, you can position elements on the screen relatively using percentage values, or you could choose to position them absolutely using pixel values. You can do that for each of your different views of your different devices. So for instance, on the phone, you could position them in completely different places. So you can do that for each orientation for each device. You can also decide to not show something at all, or to show something that wasn't on a different screen, on a different device. So if you think about that, that means you could actually create completely different screens of content for different devices. You could choose that on your desktop view, you use something like a drag and drop component that is more usable on the desktop, but perhaps on a phone where that was less usable, you would swap it out for something else. If you think that that sounds like a lot of work when you're developing it, to run through and to hand position all of these elements for all of these different devices, Well, I thought of that too. So when you're in the phone view, you've got a little option here called auto layout. So what that will do is take each of the elements on your screen and simply stack them into a single column, one above the other. So with a bit of prior thought about how you kind of plan your screen content, you can make that work really well. So, you know, that kind of automates some of it and cuts out some of the workload. But you've got the control there if you need it. And so that rounds up CourseBuilder 9. So in summary, yeah, it has those controls, those kind of actions and triggers and custom variables that can, you know, allow you to create lots of bespoke interactions and features if you want to. And it gives you that full control of your screen and the content that you lay out on it. So on to the third tool, Evolve. So this is a tool by a company called Appetier. It's cloud-based, it's responsive like the other two. It's based on the Adapt open source authoring framework. But these guys have taken that and they've kind of added some new features of their own and some pretty clever stuff in there. They've added some theming features. So Adapt wasn't too great at giving you control over the appearance of your course. It was kind of difficult to do that. These guys have added in control for every element on the screen. So you can really have the fine control that you would want to be able to fully brand your courses how you want them to be. So, you know, that's great having that in there. I think you really need that. They've got live preview. So I know this is something that their developers were really proud of. The way that Evolve and Adapt work is that it's not a WYSIWYG kind of authoring environment. You build your courses up from a kind of a form view, and you need to preview that to see what you're getting. And there was always a kind of disconnect really in Adapt, and the preview was kind of delayed. So you'd be building something in the form, and then you'd need to wait a while before you saw it in the preview. These guys have created a live preview, and you can run these two things side by side, your edit environment and your course. As soon as you make a change in the edit environment, you'll see it in your course instantly. So you've really got that kind of connection between the two, and it really helps when you're authoring your course. But what I really like about Evolve is some really novel components that they've created and that they've added in there. These are such things as there's a game component, there's a branching component, there's a discussion component, a confidence slider component. So these are things that I haven't really seen in other tools. And it's the game component that I'd really like to show you today. So what is it? It's essentially a quizzing feature. So it's going to present you with questions of different types. You can group those questions into rounds in a sort of pub quiz style quiz event. And then it has two different modes that you can run the game in. One is called ranks mode. And what this does, it allows you to create ranks and kind of configure it so that as you achieve a higher and higher score, your rank increases. So you might just use a gold, silver, bronze approach, bronze approach, or you might use something that's more meaningful in your company, perhaps. And then what I really like is the other mode, the multiplayer mode. So this allows the learner to play against kind of virtual AI characters. And the learner can actually, you can allow, so they can choose the character they want to be as well from a list of characters, and then play against others. And for each of those AI characters, you set whether they can answer easy questions or normal or hard questions. So they've got some competition. They've also added a streaks scoring thing, and I'll talk to you, I'll explain that a little bit more in a moment. It's kind of a bonus scoring feature, and power-ups. So this is a bit like the kind of lifelines that you get in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, that sort of idea. So this is the edit environment, and this is inside the game component configuration panel. So on the screen here, this is where you would choose whether you want ranks or multiplayer. I've chosen multiplayer. You set up your characters, you give them their names, you set up their kind of cleverness levels, intelligence levels, and the learner would start the game, and they would choose who they want to be. So I've set it up with 2 characters, and of course I'm going to choose Nick, aren't I? At the beginning of the course, beginning of the quiz, sorry, you're given this screen where you're shown how many points you can achieve for each question and the other sort of features that are applying and that affect your score as you go through. Now, I've jumped through the quiz a little bit. I've answered 3 questions correctly here, and you can see across the top my score, 250 points, against the other 2 virtual character scores. They're both on 50. I think one of them was set to be able to answer easy questions, and the other one was normal. So I'm way ahead of them at the moment. Over on the right here, you've also got a timer. So you can give each of your questions a timer that will run down. And you need to answer your question quickly before you lose that point. And then here are your power-ups. So you've got a hint. On a question like this, it would remove 2 of the options, making it easier for you to get the correct answer. You've got show answer. That simply shows you the correct answer and gives you the points. And then you've got stop time. So that will stop that timer up in the corner and allow you more time, as much time as you like, to answer the question. You only get 1 shot at each of these things. And the game component allows you to add them or not include them if you feel they're not appropriate. And then at the bottom here, this is showing us the streaks. So streaks is all about answering questions correctly consecutively. So this has been set up so that if you get 3 questions correctly in a row, you get bonus points. So that's what I've achieved there. And I think that's why my score's so far ahead of these other 2 guys at the top here. So again, a nice little gaming feature there. Once you get through to the end, who's won? Yeah, it's me. So the middle character, she started to catch up, but didn't quite make it. The other guy here not doing so well. But I think that really, they've got a component there that can be really fun to use, and there's a few different ways you can configure it so you can get it how you like it. So in summary, I'd say Evolve. Its strengths are, the theming options, lots of fine control over how the course looks, and its unique components. I think they are things I've not seen anywhere else. And then actually its business model. So its pricing is very competitive. Currently they're charging £24 a month per author, and you're not locked into a year. So you could choose to subscribe for 1 month or 2, or however long it takes you to build your course, and then unsubscribe, and off you go. So those are the 3 tools. Thanks for listening.